Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now that spooky month is over, it's time to go back to reviewing spooky media less frequently. I know, I can hear all of your hearts shattering, but not to fear, because today we are reviewing an 80s fantasy epic, which is close enough I think. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
Puzzling over which media to review once October had come to an end, a friend of mine suggested that I review the film Highlander. I'd watched it a few times when I was younger because it had aired on the horror channel during the day, and the part that stuck with me the most before rewatching it for this review was of course the songs by Queen.
I am immortal. I have inside me blood of kings. I have no rival. No man can be my equal.
The film centres around a man named Connor MacLeod, a Scottish-born immortal living in New York. The film details his life and adventures in the past and present through a series of intercut flashbacks. I must say that after going back to it for this video, I'm very glad that I revisited it, so thanks for the suggestion.
I'm a nerd. So am I!
The film opens with a narration from Sean Connery, and then Princes of the Universe plays over the opening credits.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe.
Like I said, this song was one of the things that stuck with me the most from watching it back in the day. The film opens with our main character, Connor MacLeod, at a wrestling match where he starts having flashbacks to his life in the Scottish Highlands. Connor leaves and goes to a parking lot, where he battles with an old enemy of his called Fasil. The fight is pretty cool, with the pair jumping over and around cars, making little explosions and setting the sprinklers off. Pretty solid opening combat scene, I'd say. Connor defeats Fasil, decapitating him, and then we as an audience are introduced to a concept from the Highlander franchise known as the Quickening. In Highlander, immortals are born with a magical kind of energy called the Quickening, which allows them to be immortal, with the exception of being beheaded. When an immortal beheads another immortal, the victor can absorb their quickening. The rules of the concept are retconned and changed slightly in later installments of the franchise, but I'm just gonna stick to this movie's rules for now, okay? In another flashback to the early 1500s, MacLeod enters his first battle against the Fraser clan, along with the rest of his own clan. Here we see this movie's main antagonist for the first time, an immortal named the Kurgan. He helps the Fraser clan and wants to kill Connor himself. The Kurgan manages to strike Connor, but he is saved from decapitation by other members of the clan. The Kurgan's design here is pretty scary, with the skull helmet and dark clothing and horse. It's a classic villain design. In the present, Connor is arrested under suspicion of murdering Fasil. He is living under the alias Russell Nash, and works as an antique dealer. After a scuffle with one of the officers, Connor is let go due to the lack of evidence connecting him to the crime. A metallurgist named Brenda, who is working with the police, tries to inspect the swords found at the scene of the crime, but is puzzled as to how it is possible that a 1,000-year-old Japanese sword could have a medieval-style make. At a bar, Connor tries to talk to Brenda, but she turns him down. However, while Brenda tries to follow Connor walking home, they are attacked by the Kurgan who has been looking for Connor. The Kurgan and Connor fight, although this is interrupted by the authorities before the Kurgan can kill him. Back in the 1500s, Connor makes a total recovery from his wound and is exiled after his family accuse him of witchcraft and debate over what to do with him, initially planning on killing him. You really gotta feel bad for the guy here. With the exception of one of his cousins, his entire clan turns against him, and he doesn't even know that he's an immortal at this point in the story. In exile, Connor becomes a blacksmith and marries a woman named Heather. One day, a man named Ramirez, who is played by Sean Connery for some reason, approaches him and tells him that he is an immortal. Ramirez trains him the hard way, pushing him into a lake and proving that he cannot drown. Ramirez explains to Connor that immortals are destined to battle one another, notably shown through the Kurgan's repeating line,
There can be only one. Can be only one. There can be only one.
one day, all immortals will be drawn to a faraway land, the US apparently, where they will meet for the gathering and fight for a mysterious prize. I find it really cool how a lot of these things are supposed to be instinctual for immortals anyway, even if the help from Ramirez is definitely useful. Unfortunately, Connor also discovers that he cannot have children, and Ramirez warns him against having relationships to spare him the heartbreak of having to watch his loved ones grow old and die. He also tells him of his sword's origin, it having been made by his genius Japanese father-in-law 1,000 years before. One night, when Connor isn't home, the Kurgan invades Connor's home, looking for him. Although there is a struggle, the Kurgan manages to kill Ramirez and takes his energy. Apart from the music, I remembered the shot of the Kurgan standing at the edge of the cliffside the most before rewatching this movie. The dark sky and lightning look very cool, and the scene looks quite sinister in comparison to earlier scenes of The Quickening. Many years later, Heather dies of old age, and Connor leaves his sword at her grave, taking Ramirez's sword with him instead. In the 1940s, Connor rescues a little girl called Rachel from the Nazis, although in the present day she looks older than him despite them having a father-daughter relationship. Back to the present day, Connor goes to Brenda's house for dinner, but he leaves once she admits to trying to set him up to discover the truth about the mysterious sword from before. Connor meets with his friend and fellow immortal, Castagir, as they prepare for the gathering. After they part ways, the Kurgan decapitates Castagir, an act witnessed by a veteran who shoots at him, but is impaled by the Kurgan with his sword. Maybe I've seen the movie too many times, but this attack reminds me of the umbrella kill in Silent Night Deadly Night 2. Inconveniently for the Kurgan, the assault of the vet and the quickening is witnessed by lots of random New Yorkers. The police try to ask the vet if it was Nash while he's in hospital, but he denies this and tells them about the supernatural events of that evening. Meanwhile, Brenda tries to do more background research on Connor, discovering that Russell Nash is one of many names that someone has been using to claim a house since the late 1700s, this identity also seeming to die shortly after being born. This person has the same handwriting as well. On Heather's birthday, Connor lights a candle for her in the church, something she asked him to do just before she died. This is really sad, although it is a sweet moment, but it's cut short when the Kurgan, who has now cut his hair to avoid detection, joins Connor in church, letting him know that now they are the only two immortals left. Immortals can't battle on holy ground, so their confrontation is cut short, and Brenda goes to Connor's home to get the truth out of him. After revealing that she knows that he isn't really Russell Nash, he confesses that he's actually Connor MacLeod, and that he's immortal. We then get the obligatory romantic connection between the two of them, although this is short-lived due to Connor's immortality. Unfortunately, the Kurgan is made aware of their newfound closeness, and kidnaps Brenda to use as bait for Connor. The Kurgan was already pretty evil, but man, he is super cruel here, driving recklessly and mocking a terrified Brenda because he can't die and she can. Connor says goodbye to Rachel and goes to fight the Kurgan at Silver Cup Studios, the sign of which falls apart due to the destruction caused during the battle. Connor ends up defeating the Kurgan, and because he was the most powerful immortal, his death is far more grand than the previous ones, as well as Connor winning the prize, Omniscience. Maybe I'm just biased, but I think that this film is really underrated. most of the people around me that are my age haven't heard of or at least haven't seen it. It really is a fun movie if you like this kind of 80s style fantasy movie. Aside from Sean Connery, I know that a few of the cast members really were Scottish, like Connor's cousins in the MacLeod clan, but the faint Scottish accents in general definitely weren't the worst I've heard. Christopher Lambert's Scottish accent wasn't half bad, but his French accent is more apparent when he's playing Russell. It is noticeable, but I don't think that it takes away from his performance overall. As I mentioned before, I really liked how 80s this movie is. Names like The Quickening and The Gathering just sound so cheesy but cool at the same time. The Kurgan has a really goofy, gravelly villain voice, and his updated villain get-up in the present day is so funny to me. I didn't realise how many Queen songs were on the soundtrack though, Princes of the Universe of course being the most well-remembered one. A spin-off television series aired during the 90s and ran for 6 seasons. From what I remember, it was okay, and I might make a video about it in the future. I haven't seen any of the sequels, but I have not heard good things about them, and considering their IMDb scores, things aren't looking too good in that respect. Well, that's all for this video. Be sure to follow me on social media, as they are all linked in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.
Nothing like a polo to ease my mind. With polos by my side, I'll always shine. The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause polos is life, 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 polos is life. Sleep all night and then polos is life.